Hi everyone, Teri Wellbrock here. Before we start today's episode, I just wanted to give you a special offer from previous podcast guest who has actually joined me twice on the show, once for an episode and then on a Facebook Live conversation for the Pandemic Self-Care series, which you can access on Facebook. Shenandoah Sheffalo. So she has launched Sheffalo Consulting, a trauma-informed specialist, and she has given me a promo code for all of the Healing Place podcast listeners for a 20% discount of a program that she has launched. And during this program, she will be going over its beginner series called Intentional Me, A Journey to Wellness beginner series. And I won't read the entire promo information. You can find out more when I give you the link here in a second. But in the beginner series, she's going to cover an orientation, setting a vision, limitations and tolerations, clearing the past, creating daily habits, and simplification. So if you go to website sheffaloconsulting.com, and that's CHEFALO consulting.com, and put in Healing Place 20. That is the promo code, Healing Place 20. All right, now for the show. Welcome, everybody, to the Healing Place podcast. I am your host, Teri Wellbrock, much thinner than you're used to seeing me, down the 57 pounds, still battling this mycotoxin poisoning, but doing better. As you can, those watching the video can see behind me, I'm not in my normal sacred writing space to record the show, and I am staying at a beautiful friend's home. We came in contact with them and they have offered their home to me while they are in very cold Ohio. And so it's great. I'm 5 minutes away from my family, which is wonderful. And Sammy is with me. So if the therapy dog, if you see her head, a little head pop up, she's coming over to say hi. So anyway, I just wanted to say that really quick, that I am on the healing journey. My rash is doing so much better. I'm adding more foods back in, not having the histamine intolerance that I was having. And right now there is a third remediation team at our house trying to figure out how to get this issue resolved. So, all right, with that, I want to introduce Melanie Ryan. And Melanie, I have to look down at my notes because my poor little menopause brain, psychotherapist and mystic, author, podcaster, and creator of the Golden Shadow Method. So welcome, Melanie.
Thank you so much, Teri. It's so nice to be here. And I just really want to thank you for everything that you're doing in sharing the information and wisdom and healing to so many people. And wonderful to hear about your own healing journey.
Oh, thank you so much. I did want to share, and I'm excited for you too. The podcasts, I just looked at the downloads for this month and they've doubled from last month. So the show is it just continues to blossom and grow. It's in 107 countries now. So my heart just gets happy and joyous to know that folks like you who come on and join me and we have these beautiful conversations, that your message is getting out there too, because I love your work, and just thank you for shining your light of hope into the world.
Thank you. So I'll tell you about the Golden Shadow Method, and it's a method that I teach online, and it's also a book. So this is my first book. It's called The Golden Shadow Method, A Path of Awakening Your True Human Potential. And so we hear a lot about the shadow. We're hearing a lot about the shadow, especially now with everything going on and things coming to the surface and very old things coming to the surface. And what we have been learning from this whole global crisis that we're going through. And we know that crisis is often a time of great change and great healing and great learning. And so the book actually came to me about 7 years ago, but being able to slow down during the time of the pandemic and locking down, it was like the book started yelling at me. It was just all these things started coming through. And I've always been very intrigued by the shadow. I am a Buddhist teacher, and I've also done a tremendous amount of work over the past 22 years on myself. I became a shamanic teacher. I truly love ancient wisdom and a lot of the things that have been lost and forgotten. And so, in my writings of the Golden Shadow Method, it really came to the forefront that the shadow is known mostly for the dark side, right? The evil side, the negative side. And in my research, and what I came to really realize is that the shadow is a total energy force, we could say, that has dark and light, much like all of us. We all have a dark and a light side, right? We can be cranky and grumpy and mean one day and then totally bright and cheerful the next day, right? So, like nature, we have a sunrise and we have a sunset. Sometimes we bring light and sometimes we bring dark, right? And so what I really wanted to bring forward in the golden shadow method is the totality of the shadow. That yes, it's absolutely important for us to look at the dark side, to look at how we may have patterns of being controlling or fearful or too aggressive. Um, but that we also have this side of us that is inherently wise, inherently loving and compassionate, creative, and intuitive. And so I love ancient wisdom, and I realize that there's so much wisdom that's within us, but also around us that's been there that has been lost and forgotten. So I bring together, I weave three ancient wisdom lineages, which is Buddhism, shamanism, and Carl Jung's psychology, which is more modern psychology. It's not ancient wisdom, but he drew upon a lot of ancient wisdom. And so, looking at what has been lost and forgotten, because the shadow is everything that has been lost and forgotten and hidden. Everything that we cannot see is what's in the shadow. So, the shadow, it's like, oh, it's this dark archetype. No, it's just the shadow. It's just what's in our blind spot, right? So
Yeah,
it's what we can't see. And so sometimes we can't see how amazing we are. Sometimes we can't take a compliment, or sometimes we can't own one of our strengths because we've been stuck in a habitual pattern of criticizing ourselves and judging ourselves and being aggressive toward ourselves. So we can't even see our light. So, how can we own our light if we're so busy being stuck in the dark? Right?
right.
So, a lot of people come to my program. My program is an online program, and each pillar, so Jung in the Shadow is about a 3 month shadow work immersion where we focus on Jung's techniques, active imagination, uh, creative expression, understanding shadow projection, understanding triggers and how they create opportunities for growth and awareness. And then I do Buddha and the Shadow, which is another 3 month immersion where we really get into what I learned from my lineage, which is the lineage of Shambhala. It's a Tibetan Buddhist lineage founded by Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche. And his Shambhala teachings are very much the meditation is a very direct experience of ourselves. So we are really looking at ourselves. It's not a kind of meditation where we're listening to music and kind of blissed out, going somewhere beautiful into a happy place. It's actually learning how to be with ourselves, our dark and our light. And so the meditation trains the mind to be very stable and clear so that we can become more intuitive. We have more space in our mind. We look at ourselves. And so Trungpa Rinpoche was really wonderful at uh, presenting a concept called basic goodness, talking about our basic goodness, that we are basically good. And that was a game changer for me, because when I sat in meditation, all I saw was my crazy busy mind. And then I started to see how judgmental I was of myself and everyone else. Oh my God, I had something critical to say about everything, you know? And so I had to look at that. And then I was introduced to these teachings of basic goodness, that we are basically good. And I was like, I'm good. you know, I'm a good girl, you know? So after years of really telling myself such horrible things, ripping how we can rip ourselves apart, and judge ourselves. We can be so hard on ourselves, that these concepts of basic goodness and being kind and gentle toward myself and really sitting with myself and watching my mind was the level of awareness changed everything. It gave me the choice to continue with negative self talk, to continue to be controlling and judging, or to step away from that. Right. So, Buddha and the Shadow is a 3-month immersion into a very particular kind of meditation that may not be like a feel good meditation, because we have to kind of lean into the discomfort in order to grow. So that's a very transformative pillar of the program. That'll be this summer. Young in the Shadow actually starts this Saturday. It's sold out already, but Buddha and the Shadow is over the summer. And then Shaman in the Shadow is the shaman's view of going into the psyche or the soul or the shadow. These are all interchangeable words. The blind spots, and traveling through time and space into non-linear reality with spiritual guides. And our guides have a very loving way of showing us our blind spots. And so we start to expand into this vast ocean of the unconscious. And it is a mystery. A lot of what goes on in shadow work, and when we start to connect with this quantum field, this invisible world that's around us, and to use it to manifest, and to reclaim our powers. And it gets very mysterious and really intriguing, and it's a wild ride. Shadow
Yes.
work is a wild ride, and we laugh and we cry and we create, and we make friends, and it's a really beautiful path of transformation. And so the golden shadow, I really wanted to bring in more positive psychology. That shadow work doesn't have to be this terrible, horrible, terrifying experience. That we have gold that's right there, because the shadow is also just simply sometimes what we've forgotten. And so we don't necessarily have to go through this deep, dark mud to get to what we forgot. We just have to remember. With
Yes.
some of it, we do get deep and dark, and we're crying and we're breaking down and then building back up. But sometimes it's like, oh my God, I forgot how much I love to dance, or I forgot how much I love to paint. And so in the program, when they have these exercises to do, because I really wanted to do an immersion, there's too much of a quick fix kind of thing going on that is not getting to the deeper root of things, which is where the transformation really is. So they have to do exercises in between the workshops. And so it's a lot of independent study. And of course, you get out of it as much as you put into it. But the creative art, uh, crafts, and things that I have them do totally unlocks the golden shadow, which is the creative part that we all have. We all have it. And so things start to get unlocked, and it's like sparks start to happen, and they're just remembering things,
Yeah.
right? And so that remembering can be very fast and doesn't involve, a lot of crying and tissues and things like that all the time. But shadow work does, it really is, it's a rebirth, you know, and
Yeah.
so that's not always a comfortable process.
Right. Well, one of the things that popped into my head, and just to steer back for just a second, was the ancient wisdom part. And I love the idea of that. And I don't know if I'm understanding it right. So, and this is just my crude, like, how I think about it is, so living on Hilton Head Island between, I think, April and October, the sea turtles come up and they swim up and they lay their eggs on the shore, and then we wait for the hatchlings, and then everybody gets excited when all the little turtles go back to the ocean. And so what I think of is, like, how do they know to do that? Because they have this ancient wisdom, because they have this innate nature but it's been passed down through the years of, like, how do they know to swim back to this island to do what they need to do. And so, to me, I think, we all have this ancient wisdom, this innate knowledge, however you want to word it, or all of it. um,
Exactly.
but we just have lost the ability to tap into it. And so, really, what you're doing is helping guide people towards just. I had someone recently tell me, Teri, she had sent me a message and she said, "I'm being told to tell you," oh my gosh, I say it to myself every day now, "be still and listen."
Yeah.
And
Believe it or
so,
not, a lot of people don't continue, well, not a lot, a few people don't continue with Buddha and the shadow. The sitting in stillness and silence is often the hardest thing for us to do. And it was very hard for me as well. And I talk about it in my book. We are in a culture where we're programmed to be very busy. And so it's not just the program, but it's also the validation from others of, what did you do today? And how much did you get done today? Or at work, it's like you're given a badge of honor for staying late, and, you're still at your desk at 11 o'clock at night. And, so we're we are conditioned to be busy, and so extracting ourselves from the culture is very, very hard. And so, for me to become authorized as a Buddhist teacher, it took 12 years of study. And so I had to work through, you know, my resistance and my fear of sitting with myself and sitting with what came up. And so, a lot of support goes into, unlearning the busy lifestyle. Most people who come into my program are not retired. They come in. A lot of people are having spiritual awakenings starting at, like, late 20s, early 30s. So some of them are just starting their careers, and they're, thinking that they have to be really busy to make things happen. But what I've learned in the process is that the more I let go, the more I receive.
and
It
that's
doesn't
so
have to
true.
be so hard.
Yeah, it is so very true. Right. I mean, you and I had a little chat beforehand of an experience I had, but yeah, when I finally learned, and that's part of, like, those of us with trauma history. I know I have horrible trauma history. It was very difficult to learn to be comfortable just being in my own body, in my own skin.
Absolutely.
So I had to do that healing work to finally get there. But once I did, oh, very powerful. The messages that I would receive, and the answers and the guidance. Yeah,
Well, the shadow accumulates because we avoid these parts of ourselves, especially the painful parts. We just don't want to go there
right.
because it's so painful and it's so uncomfortable. And we think we're going to die from it or something. So when we start to hold space for ourselves and make a commitment to sit in silence and meditation, the Buddhists talk about, that it's making friends with ourselves. And the way that we can sit across the table and listen to our best friend, go out to dinner and listen to all their problems and really be present, is what we're doing for ourselves. We're really becoming best friends. And so in Buddha and the Shadow, there is, just in the silence, the shadow material, what we have disowned and what we have avoided and repressed, naturally bubbles up to the surface. So you could be sitting there just, you know, breathing, and then boom, all of a sudden, a memory. It could be something traumatic or it could be something beautiful. Memories come up just because you are making yourself available to yourself. And yourself, your inner child or your soul or whatever it is very delighted at the fact that you are making yourself available to listen to that part of you so that it can be heard and that it can be healed and integrated so that it's not draining your power anymore. When
Yeah.
we do shadow work, we're transmuting these wounds into wisdom and compassion, you know, and it's very difficult to face the fear of the discomfort. So, a lot of the training, and we talk about from the very beginning, I talk about this is shadow work. It's not shadow relaxation, it's shadow work.
It's
And
work.
it's gonna take, some grit. You have to have some grit, to do this. And everyone who's had serious trauma in their lives, and I've had my own, is by going in and making friends with it and loving it, is where we restore our energy and our power and our capacity to love. Shadow work is a very deep path of remembering how to love, to open our hearts to ourselves.
Yeah.
We have to open our hearts to ourselves first and hold that space for ourselves and make friends with ourselves and learn gentleness and kindness towards ourselves in order to embody that and radiate that out to the world, you
Yeah.
know.
You brought up such a brilliant and beautiful point in that I've had a number of people say to me through the years that there's no way I could go back into that darkness. I couldn't go back into, and I always have said to them, you have to go through the darkness to get to the light. And so what I'm hearing is that, yeah, I mean, it's still there regardless. Like the shadow's still there, the darkness is still there, whether you're willing to go into it, sit with it, learn from it or not, it's still there.
It's always there. Yeah, I like to say that we are a constellation of stars, right? And so when we are born, we're born on a certain day. And I happen to be very passionate about the Mayan calendar. I study the Mayan calendar, the sacred calendar, and we're all born under a certain constellation, right? So you're the constellation of Teri, right? And so in the Mayan chart, you have 9 energies in your chart. And so those energies can be artistic, they can be technical, they could be, you know, uh, well, there's all kinds of, there's 20 different energies, and they're all from nature and from the cosmos, but they all have a certain tone and energy and quality to it that make you who you are, right? And so there's a dark side and a light side to every single energy, right? And so part of our journey as being human is to go into the dark, to have that hero's journey. I'm actually writing my second book, which is called The Secrets of the Golden Shadow. And it really is looking more closely at the relationship of duality and how to transcend it, how to make friends with it all, and to see how it's all interconnected and how to make sense of it so that we can understand ourselves and our world, right? And sort of have this sort of bigger view of why is it all designed this way? you know, why is it this way, right?
Yeah.
Why do I have to go into the dark to access the light parts of myself? Why is that? Right? And so what I've been learning is, and there's lots of different views about that, but I'm basically studying it now and contemplating it on my own. But there is a meaning and purpose of adversity,
Hmm.
right? And so I'm kind of, sitting with this a lot lately of wow, the universe really is designed in this way of duality where we're always bumping up against someone. And the spiritual teachers have always said our greatest teacher is the most difficult person in our life, right? So, what happens to us, these, events or people that create challenge and adversity for us, is what gives us that push to access the greatest parts of ourselves. And so, of course, you're not going to win the gold medal without training and working hard. I mean, I'm thinking about the Olympics,
Right.
like we have to work hard for the gold, don't we?
Yeah.
It's not just given to us in any kind of situation in life. So even when we go to the gym, to get stronger, right, we have to like put on more weight. There always has to be a challenge for us to get stronger. And so there's physical strength, there's emotional strength, mental strength, and spiritual strength, right? So we are going to be challenged in all these different ways. The hero's journey talks a lot about that. Joseph Campbell and the hero's journey, and how, we leave this comfort zone and then we go, out into the mystery, into the unknown, and we're tested. There's all these tests, and of course we're afraid. Of course we're afraid. Our biggest on the whole planet right now, what our biggest lesson is how to work with fear right now, right?
Right.
So going out into the uncertainty, fear of death, fear of, monsters and all these different things. It's portrayed in every movie, every storyline. This is what Carl Jung talked about,
Excuse me.
bless you,
Thank
as
you.
the collective consciousness, right? Of all the stories, all the, myths and legends that we've been told through time. Every human being has to go through their own hero's journey, right? So yeah, so shadow work is the story of our own journey. We are the hero, you know.
Oh my gosh, I'm learning so much from you and I love it. I could sit here and talk to you for hours on end.
Ah, that's awesome. Thank you.
I mean, you have my mind because I'm a thinker and I love these deep philosophical conversations, but soulful too. And yeah,
Yeah.
so I tell myself all the time, like with all that's been going on this past year with my health, and I just keep sitting back and saying, all right, what is the lesson I am to be learning in this? So, and trying to
Yeah.
listen to the spirit guides and angels tapping on my shoulders, and yeah, to learn, because it is such a journey. And that's another thing I tell people is we're all on our own healing journey. No one person's is the same. And what you were just talking about, Teri born under the constellation of Teri, because it's my journey. And I
Mhm.
mean, there's similarities, but no one has lived my life, and nor yours or anyone else's. And so, um, yeah, it's
And you
powerful
have
and
your own
beautiful.
special gifts to bring and share with us. In the Golden Shadow Method, we really shine a light on that, that your job is to uncover your gold, right? To sort of dig down and find the gold within that you have been born with. That is the Teri constellation. It's
Yeah,
only your gifts, and you can only deliver them in the way that you can deliver them, right? Because these energies have come together to create you in a very special way.
yeah, right. Oh my
So
gosh,
we're here to
beautiful.
share. We're
Right.
here to love ourselves and discover our gifts and play. We're here to play and appreciate life, to wake up and be like, wow, I have another day,
Yeah.
it can get dark. It can, and one thing I would like to say to the audience is how important it is to ask for help, that there's no shame. There's absolutely no shame and no judgment, that this is our experience of being human. And when I was working on myself, I would say to my mentors, and I would have like 4 or 5 mentors, and I was not always good at asking for help. But when I got the call to step onto my spiritual path, something inside me knew that I needed a lot of mentors, and I needed mentors from different backgrounds. Like I had a shaman that I worked with, and then I had my Buddhist teacher, and then I had a spiritual life coach, and then different people came to me from different lineages. I have, my own shadow work analyst. I have someone who teaches me about Greek mythology, and then I belong to a Mayan community, so I've always had mentors because we're here to learn,
Yeah.
and we can't learn without help, right? Because there's always an elder, that knows more, and we're here to share our wisdom. So to ask for help is so important, and to not have any shame, to maybe just, call someone who we have access to so many different teachers and people now with the internet and so many people online. It's so wonderful. But I don't really encourage new people or even seasoned people to be working alone all the time. It's not good for us. We need to be
Right.
sharing our wisdom. We need to be always learning. I love the word curious. That was something that I got from Trungpa Rinpoche, from my Shambhala Buddhist Sangha, was always being curious. There's always more to learn.
Yes. Oh, again, I love it because I'm that curious person. And I just have to go back for a second, only because my audience loves these, like when these synchronistic moments happen. So my son called me last night. He lives in Denver, and he started back to school at University of Colorado, Denver, and he's taken a philosophy class. Well, he's always been my deep thinker, poet, like soul, and super smart, just such a great guy. And so anyway, he was like, all right, so I had to do this project, write this paper for philosophy. Can I read it? And I was like, sure. And it was all about play and imagination. And so when you just were talking about that, how we have to play. And so he and I had this crazy, powerful, awesome conversation last night for 45 minutes about the power of play and the power of imagination and how healing it can be. And so I love that synchronistic moment that you just happened to say that exact same thing. So thanks.
Yeah. Yeah, and it really shining the light on those positive sides, because I've had a lot of people come into my program that have done shadow work and have been really focusing on the dark for like a decade,
Yeah.
like a long time. And I'm like, dude, it's time to play. Like, let's have some balance here, I mean, that's wonderful work that you've been doing, because of course I don't promote what's called spiritual bypassing. I'm not a love and light kind of person. I'm the whole thing. I see things from a very big picture, that we are like nature, and nature has creation and destruction. Everything has a dark and a light. And
Yeah.
so we have to go into the dark, and then we have to play. And then we have to go into the dark, and then we have to laugh. And then we have to go into the dark, and then we have to dance, or so everything that we learn about healing is about bringing balance, right? Balance to the masculine, balance to the feminine. So balance to our dark, and also balance to our light. And to be aware, awareness is a very important key word. To have awareness of it all, and to not deny any parts of ourselves. And that's how we really come together. I used to say on my healing journey, I would say to my mentors, I feel like you're putting Humpty Dumpty back together again. And they were like, we are,
Yeah.
So of course I had to break apart and break down in order to break through and really discover who I was as not just a psychotherapist, because I used to practice very traditionally, but then I became a yoga teacher, and then I became a Buddhist teacher, and then a shamanic teacher. Then I started taking people around the world on sacred journeys. Then I wrote a book. I mean, I was evolving all the time. And in Buddhism, it's called impermanence and egolessness. Like there's no fixed self. The ego wants things to be fixed all the time. I am Melanie, and I do X, Y, and Z. And this
Right.
is who I am. And if you don't like it, too bad. No, it's like I'm not always who I say I am. Who I was in January of 2021 is not who I am this year. You know, I am, the author of the Golden Shadow Method, but this year I'm also going to be the author of The Secrets of the Golden Shadow. And then whatever else I decide to do this year, I started painting. And so now I'm a painter.
I
So
love
who
it.
I am is always changing because we're always curious and we're always growing, right? And
Yeah.
healing. And so everything is moving and changing all the time. So we can create and we can imagine whatever we want.
Yes. Beautiful. Now the book, does it do it goes along that same journey as what you do in the classes?
Yeah, so the book has over 33 exercises. No, 35, sorry. 33 is my favorite number. That's why I said that. So there's over 35 techniques. You can do it on your own. In the online program, there's more. There's
Okay.
more that I don't reveal in the book because I didn't feel comfortable with certain techniques. People opening up that much on their own.
Right.
Whereas in the program, they get mentor calls, they're doing peer calls. I'm really available to people at any point. So there's techniques that I introduce and do with people in the program that is not in the book. So it's wonderful to get the book. You can get it on Amazon or you can order from me directly, a signed copy. Um, but yeah, the program is also a small community where I'm building a community of golden shadow workers where, we're all on this path together. And people are making friends. Last year was really tough because people are still isolating, and some people, they made best friends with people and they're talking offline and some people are getting together physically if they live near each other. It's a global community, but like some people live near each other and I just love I'm one. I've always wanted to create community. I
Yeah.
used to own a holistic health center. I brought people in, thousands of people in, and I love watching people create businesses together. I love watching new friendships, lifelong friendships be made. This is what I'm here to do. I understand who I am and I understand why they put me here right now. you know so I like my program has a smaller group that's not like 200 people. I only take 14 people per program, and some people journey and they do all three pillars for the whole year. Some people come in and they take one or two pillars. I leave it very open and flexible. It's whatever you're called to do. Last year was the first year that I did the full program online. The book was launched December of 2020. So January of 2021 was the first year. So I have all these graduates from last year who actually joined my year two program, which I didn't know was going to happen. It's called Warriors of Light. And we are going into the collective consciousness. So, year one, we really work on the personal unconscious and making the unconscious conscious, making things aware that have not been in our awareness before, and healing, but also creating and having fun. Year two, I was really guided to teach people how to go more deep into the collective shadow, which is understanding how our past lives are getting activated unconsciously, how ancestral wounds are getting triggered unconsciously. When we get upset, we think that, maybe it's just tied to this life and what happened to me when I was 3 years old. But actually, what happened to you when you were 3 years old also happened to you in four past lives. So all the energy that comes out sometimes when we get triggered and when we're having difficulty in relationships and repeating patterns, it's because we've done that many times, or it's in our ancestral line as well. So we start to understand who we are. I say year two is really understanding the story of your soul.
Yeah. Powerful. Well, and again, I could have a whole podcast series on all of this. So it's amazing. And I love what you said about community, because I certainly find in putting our truths out there, how we can just, those soul connections happen. And when we have those soul connections, yes, what a beautiful sense of community then starts to develop from that. Yeah.
Yeah, we find our soul family.
Yes. Yes. I love it. Yep. All right. Well, is there anything else that you wanted to touch upon that we haven't had an opportunity to talk about yet?
No, I think I covered everything. I'm just really happy to be able to share my work and to meet you and learn about everything that you're doing. And just so grateful for all of the people who are bringing healing to our world right now, because we really need it as we're moving through this time of chaos and change and transformation. So I just want to say thank you to you.
Oh, thank you.
And thank you to your listeners who choose to listen. You know, wow.
Yes. Well, I'm right there with you. I'm so grateful to everyone who's tuning in. And I just think there's I don't know, an awakening of souls, of spirit that so many people are seeking. And so people like you who are doing this beautiful work in the world and helping guide others along their journey, it's just such a gift. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Teri.
Yeah, absolutely. So how do people find you, get in touch with you?
So I'm online, Melanie Ryan, LCSW.com. That's my website. You can also find me on Instagram, golden.shadow.method. And I'm on Facebook under Melanie Ryan, LCSW. And I have a YouTube channel, The Golden Shadow Method. So there's a few different ways.
Yeah, I love it. Well, and I see, I think that's awesome, because I do the same thing, because some people like the visual part of it. Some people like the reading part of it. So you have the book and the YouTube, and it's just wonderful. You're
We have to
reaching.
be everywhere now.
Yes, right, right. It's so true. Oh my gosh. Well, this has just been such an honor. Again, I've learned so much from you, and I just I feel blessed to have met you and have you on the show. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well,
Be
everyone,
well.
thank you for joining us today on the Healing Place podcast. And remember, until next time, be gentle with yourself. Thanks. Bye-bye. Hey, everybody. Teri Wellbrock again. Just wanted to thank you for listening to the episode today, and remind you to visit my website as well as the academy.teriwellbrock.com for the courses. But if you go to my website, teriwellbrock.com, you can sign up for my monthly Hope for Healing newsletter, which is also jam-packed with information and strategies and blog pieces and guest blog pieces and links to shows, and just a great space for, again, healing and hope strategies. Thanks for, again, being here and being a part of this healing space. I very much appreciate you. All right. Bye-bye.